That's right. We are live in the middle of Pennsylvania and around the world. Of course, we are talking about Blackburn Rovers. It's the end of the season for all of us, for most of us. And what we're going to do today is take a little look back at, of course, 2024, 2025, and announce your winners of the end of season awards. We'll get to that in a minute. Make sure you subscribe wherever you are in the world, and make sure you drop a like and all that kind of stuff. Also, draw your attention to the chat. There is a live vote going on. We've got two categories that were could not be separated. So I want to try and see if we can squeeze out a winner. So make sure you drop a vote on the Goalkeeper of the Season award. We'll take your votes into consideration, and then it will help us boost that. And then later on, we've got the Defender of the Year award to decide on. So before we jump into all that, let's talk about, of course, how we wrapped up this season. A couple of my lovely fellows here did go to the game. One was a little bit too afraid. He's got this bit of a jinx, a bit of a curse. But let's start with one who did go. Jacob, you were there. What a day! Even though it didn't work out our way, but it still was a cracking game. I think a decent effort, and maybe something to build upon next season. How did you see it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when that goal went in from Yuki, the limbs were unbelievable. And yeah, it's a shame we could only hold on for the whole of 9 minutes. I think Ishmael said it. It was just kind of a shame that goal came probably a little too early. It seems like if that goal had maybe come 10, 20 minutes after that, he would have, instantly made some changes, maybe brought on your likes of your Forshaws or maybe a Hayden Carter made a return to the bench, but can't help but kind of have this optimistic feeling. But the same as we did kind of 2 years ago when we just narrowly missed out. Yeah, it's gutting really, obviously, just to kind of so close yet again and just narrowly miss out. But yeah, a great game, and on the face of it, obviously going to Bramall Lane and getting a 1-1 draw is a good result. It's just obviously not the result we needed, and it is a kick in the balls. The fact that if we'd have got that extra goal, we would have been sixth. We would have been taking Bristol City's spot.
Yeah, and look how they performed so far. They're not kind of showing maybe the lack of quality, and I think I probably was in that mindset. Like I think if we got in the top six, we probably would have been spanked along the way, and we would have been in this division next season. But good run to the end of the campaign there with I think unbeaten in 6. Big Val's the man, right?
Well, I mean, obviously it was an unbeaten run in 6, but 6 losses on the bounce before that. So, yeah, very kind of bipolar first 12 games for Big Val. But, I mean, I think there's definitely, we should definitely go into the new season fully back in Val at this point. Obviously, it is very positive, 6 unbeaten. Obviously, it took maybe a bit longer than we were all hoping for him to implement his ideas and his style. But I think there was definitely a noticeable difference in those last 6 from, obviously that second half against Sheffield Wednesday, pulling 2 back. There just seemed to be a shift in the mentality and, yeah, just everything really. So obviously this summer, let's just hope we obviously back him as much as we can. Obviously the restraints in India with the court case and whatnot, but let's get him the personnel he needs, and let's maybe move on a bit of the dead wood. And I'm sure next season, if we carry on as we've ended the season, we should be looking in and around the top 6 again, I would hope.
Yeah, and also another man that was there, Denver. You were there, weren't you? You managed to squeeze out some tickets in the end, and managed to close out the season with a decent result. What is your take on the last game of the season against the high-flying Sheffield United?
Very, very similar to Jacob, to be fair. Look, we're all dejected at the end of the game, but you've got to put hindsight in it and be like, look, a draw against Sheffield United, and some of the chances they had a few where you think they maybe should have put away. The one over the bar towards the end, you're thinking, how's he missed that? A few penalty shouts I heard and whatnot. But before I carry on, yes, I managed to squeeze the tickets. Thank you, John T. I'm sure he's there. The legend himself managed to squeeze the tickets, but of course, being John T, he was not risking going to that game with his curse. But hey, But again, I just want to say thank you for Jonty for that. But yeah, but what was really impressive more than anything is that I predicted the score again. I think that's 2 games in a row. I think the Middlesbrough game I predicted to lose, which is terrible for me. I know, but I did. And then I called a 1-1 as we were walking to the ground with Jacob, and I never wanted to be more wrong in my life those 2 times. But hey, I went with my sitting on the fence again on the day, and it came about. But again, the result is what it is. Sheffield United probably were the better side overall. We had a few chances. We scored 1. It was a scruffy chance as well. It went through a few legs and managed just to go into the goal. But again, as Jacob said, the limbs were amazing. But for some poor kids in front of me, they were. You can imagine fully grown men and women jumping around, screaming. Next thing you know, these kids in front of me were utterly ruined, and I felt so sorry.
Yes, it was one of them, kind of weird kind of feelings in the end. Hang on a minute, I've just dropped the wrong person. That's here. Johnny's there, of course. Let me get myself back into it. I'm juggling all these people here. It's quite tricky. You were like me, maybe, of course, watching from, I don't know, a different position than others. But best of the rest. We were best of the rest, 7th place. And, of course, you turn the clock back to 2024, the start of the season, back in August. You would have bitten that off, surely, bitten the hand off, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We got to remember, I think back in August, we were all kind of saying that we might, a top 10 finish. I think I said all along we'll be 8th or 9th, so I guess we've exceeded my expectations. But I think United on the last game of the season, if anybody had said that right at the start of the season, that we would go there and, to win, potentially we could go into the playoffs, we would have snapped the hand off, given everything that went on the previous season. So, yeah, I mean, in situations like this, you've just got to put everything into context. You've got to take one big step back, take a holistic view, and I will see this season as a success. Really, to be fair, I've enjoyed it. I think it's been a bonkers season. Nobody could have written what went on, but it's for 9 minutes we were in that playoff spot, weren't we? And I think, as we've all said on WhatsApp messages so many times in the past, it's a hope that kills us, and it is a hope that kills us. We were so close, weren't we? But it wasn't to be. Sheffield United, quality team. I think they made 6 or 7 changes, but every single player. I was kind of saying before the match that Sheffield United, they will rest some players and it gives us a great opportunity. But the reality is, those 6 or 7 players that came in were basically saying, "Listen, boss, I think I can play in the playoff semi-finals," which obviously some of them did against Bristol City. So, yeah. I think it's only human nature when you get so close to something to feel a bit dejected. But no, you've got to take a step back. Great season by all stretch of the imagination, and hopefully gives us that little bit of a platform to go on and do something next season. Hopefully we can keep some of the core skeleton part of the squad, get some changes in there, and let's see what happens. We've had some, and I'm sure we'll come on to this. So I don't want to peak too soon, but we've had some players that have really stood out this season, which is really pleasing to see. So yeah, onwards and upwards.
Indeed, onwards and upwards indeed. So let's, of course, get to the meat of the matter here, of course, and try to celebrate, if we can, the end of the season. And, of course, we did something like this earlier in the campaign. It was the end of the year awards, but now we're going to do the end of the season awards. And again, there is a couple of there's one live vote right now. That is the goalkeeper of the year award, and we'll get to announcing that shortly. And as soon as I can add that, I will get the next one, which is the Defender of the Year award. It's just down to the last 2. So let's, of course, start with the first one of the order. I don't know which order I've gone in here, but hopefully it has some sort of sense. So start off with, of course, there, just a reminder, the Goalkeeper of the Year award. There it is. It's there. Get voting. Yeah, maybe even drop them in the chat there. So we're not announcing this yet. This is just a reminder to do that and get voting. So, Young Player of the Season. There's no drum roll. There's no nothing. We're going straight to it like a Band-Aid, like a write-off. And it is Owen Beck. He actually won by a landslide. There was actually no one else voted for anybody else. Of course, I think you could have voted like somebody who was 40 in there. I think my poll was a little quick fire. But who wants? You must have all voted for him. So who wants to speak wax lyrical about this young chap? Let's go with Denver. I'm not going to swap around you because that takes too much effort. And it's
Mate.
That's fine. Well, you had to pick me again because he's, of course, a local lad from where I live. But no, honestly, I remember when we made the signing. I was still in the States, and I didn't have my phone on me because I was working. When I looked and I seen it, it was a bit of a weird, surreal, because of course I know his brother and I know his, he was with school with me and everything. So it was a bit of a weird moment realizing, wait a minute, this kid and we've talked about him, and I've had many conversations when I was at uni with certain lecturers because of my coaching degree, and he's been in and around it and said, oh, he's going to be some good player for Liverpool, blah, blah, blah. And then next thing you know, we signed him for the club that I've supported all my life. And it was a bit of a surreal moment, and not knowing what he was going to be like, we can be very hit or miss with Blackburn Rovers and our loan signings. But he just come in that Burnley game and, thrown into the fire and he coped really, really well. And all season, he's just been a real talisman in from that left back position, just going forward and creating chances. Yes, towards the beginning of this, first 2025, he's played so many games, and he's a young lad. He's going to burn out, and he ultimately did. So we had that rest when we had players coming back in, and Ribeiro signed. And it's just so unfortunate that he got injured against Portsmouth, because I think he could have really impacted the last few games of the season. And unfortunately, the injury came when it did. And and we know what the rest is like. But those first few months, he was so important. And of course, with the injuries we're having, there's a reason why he was thrown into the deep end. But he was fantastic. Could have maybe scored a few more goals, but in amongst the boys and some of the flicks. I remember that flick to Cantwell before Hyam put it in the back against Middlesbrough. It's just been fantastic.
Yeah, and of course he had one of the major talking points of the season early doors with the incident that got him red carded, and of course the fangs in the back of his neck. I guess the vast majority of you guys were there for the incident against Burnley. Not Burnley, sorry, Preston.
Yeah. I was there.
It was.
And I remember, because I didn't know the incident that happened. I know he'd been sent off, and I didn't know, of course, the reason why. And I remember going back. We went sort of for a bite to eat in Preston before heading back to Wales, and I just messaged Leon, his brother, just saying what his reaction was to his brother getting sent off. And that's when I first found out that the incident happened. I found out through him, and he was fuming. He was he's going, I can't believe this can happen, and the referee, blah blah blah. I won't go too much into it. I don't want to get Owen in trouble if anyone's listening, but yeah, that's I remember finding out and thinking, bloody hell, that was the incident. And then it all come out. Of course, Sky reported it blown everywhere, and it was national news in the end. But yeah, no, interesting game to say the least, because it was a 0-0. Bit of a dead rubber.
Bit of a dead rubber indeed. My little things playing silly beggars. Okay, we're going to move on to the flop of the season. Now, before I reveal it, Jonty, who you think is going to pop up here as the winner of the flop of the season?
Oh dear.
Jacob. I'm only kidding, mate. Oh God, I wish you put a list up and then I could decide flop of the season.
Well, you got it's once you see it, you will probably wholeheartedly agree.
You're getting old now, Dirk. You can't remember the season who flopped.
Dear.
Like, I could give you an answer, but you didn't come to me. So
go to Jacob.
Go on, Jacob. Who's your winner? Who do you think is going to clean sweep this bad boy? I think it was also a clean sweep.
Really?
I going off recency bias and personally who I voted for as well, I would go Emmanuel Dennis. I mean, that header. Well, there you go. That header against Sheffield United. Wow. I mean, he should have had that at least on target. Rose above the rest and put it well wide. And it's just been an absolute waste of time, hasn't it? I mean, I think we've been paying about 20 to 25 grand a week. Been sent off, been injured, and I suppose you can't really help the injury. But I think all he had to contribute in his time here was an assist. And I think when we signed him, I think everyone were hoping we were getting the Emmanuel Dennis of 3-4 years ago when he were banging him in the Prem at Watford. He was all in our FPL teams and he was brilliant. But yeah, he's been anything but. And to be honest, I kind of had a sense from his first interview when he signed, and to me, it came across to me like he thought he was too good to be here. He didn't seem excited. He didn't seem enthused. He even made a point of saying in the interview, I know it doesn't look like I'm excited to be here, but inside I'm like buzzing, and I'm like, don't feel like you are, mate. And yeah, I just his attitude to me and everything. Yeah, to me, he just he never really won me over, and yeah, he's clearly not won the fans over either, judging by this result.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame because when you look at him on paper, it would have been a good signing if we had him for a full season, and of course if he came fit and raring to go.
Mm.
But that's probably why we were the only team maybe in for him. We took a gamble, took a punt.
I also think one for Emmanuel Dennis is also with Dennis and Woodrow coming in and us letting go of Siggy, and both of them never really give us anything. That's, I think, what also makes it a bit like, that whole incident, and we've ended up doing that.
I feel like it was more than half the reason why Eustace went. I think he clearly liked Siggy. For whatever reason, he spoke very positively about Siggy. I went to the Q&A and he was saying he wanted to keep him, etc. Because, obviously he only had 6 months contract left in January, and I posed the question to him saying, look, what's going to happen with Sigurdsson? He wanted to keep him, and obviously to balls up another transfer window where we signed one player too many and we had to let Siggy go. I don't think Eustace were happy about that, and I think all of us sat here would probably say we would rather have had Siggy for the last 6 months than Woodrow. Maybe not Jonty, because I know Jonty was definitely not a fan, but Woodrow did positively nothing his entire time with Rovers, and I think most fans would have expected that to be the case when he signed, to be honest with you. So.
Yeah, I don't think I voted for Emmanuel Dennis as flop of the season. And the way I look at it, I think if you change the title to disappointment of the season, then yes, Emmanuel Dennis wins it for me. But I wouldn't, me personally, I don't think he's a flop of the season. We saw glimpses of absolute quality from him. I think he was just on a bit of a different level. He was making different kind of runs, more maybe Premier League. Maybe I'm just deluded. I don't know. But for me, just seeing that, it's and I talk about it a lot. Game time, just he needed to gel within that team and things like that. So was he the flop of the season for me? No. Was he the disappointment of the season? Yes, absolutely. But just a very quick thing on Beck, though, if I may. I know we're going back, rewinding ever so slightly, but what I liked about Beck is not only was he a good typical fullback in this modern era that you see in the Premier League that can not only fly down the flank and take players on and what have you, but he was also brilliant defending. He loved defending as well. And I think that's the difference between Championship and Premier League fullbacks, is that the Premier League, they can do both. And this is where I'm going with Owen Beck. He can do both. He can defend like doesn't matter if it's in the first 5 minutes or if it's in the 78th, 79th minute when he needs to defend. He defends for his life, but he can also fly down that left wing with intent as well and take players on and look for the clever passes and play the 1-2s in the boxes as well. And that for me splits out a Championship fullback and a Premier League fullback. The Premier League, they can do both. Championship, you either get they're really good at defending or they're really good at going down the flank, and they've got like a bit of a blind spot. So Owen Beck for me is a complete package.
I'm just curious, Jonty, who would be your flop of the season?
Yeah.
Who did I put, Dirk?
Oh man, I knew you were going to ask. Give me a minute.
You've had plenty of time. You've had plenty of time to prep for this, but okay, if we need to entertain ourselves,
you should know. You got to know who you picked.
Yeah,
come on, mate.
Well done.
Hey, I was this far in work, right? I was so deep in work when I completed it. But
I'll get there.
I think I was in two minds between Emmanuel and Kozia Dubry, but I think the expectations were a hell of a lot higher on Emmanuel Dennis than they were Kozia Dubry. For me, Kozia Dubry, since turn of the new year, really just did positively nothing, and actually was more of a hindrance to us. Was it the Cardiff game where he practically assisted Cardiff, and it was like, what am I watching? Just every single time he come on, he was just a harm to the team the last 6 months, and I'm not sure what happened there, because the start of the season, every time he come on, I thought, he's really fast. He's like shit off a shovel. He'd be really direct, but yeah, I don't know what happened. Maybe it was Eustace leaving or something, but yeah, I feel like he really lost his way. But yeah,
You know who he voted for?
Dennis.
No. Mac Targay.
he's fucking dead.
Oh no! Oh,
That's a wind up, surely.
God's sake,
It's a wind up.
explain yourself right now.
To be fair, I did throw one in, which I thought will wind Jacob off the clock, and I think that's a one. I think that again, disappointment of the season. I mean, a fan favourite, but for all the wrong reasons. But yeah, he had 3 or 4 games of brilliance, and then the rest was. It felt like we were playing with 10 players sometimes. It really did. But
He
no,
knew
I
he
think
knew he voted Mactai. He was just building that joke up there.
I did want to keep it jaunty controversial title. I'm waiting for the comments to come in, but
There's a couple of guys in the chat agree with you. Rovers guy says 100% agree. Gay shocking. I've got the next one's coming up here, and it's a bit of a surprise winner. It is the worst signing of the season. Who wants to take a punt at who thinks the winner is or that?
Denver.
Do I?
No.
He's calling you the worst signing of the season.
I'm the worst signing of the season. I've been here longer, Jonty. What's this about?
You're a veteran, Denver. You're a veteran.
I know. I'm a veteran.
OG.
Jonty, when did you join again?
Yeah, all right, move on.
He's from last season's hangover, Denver.
Yeah. All right. Sorry, Dirk. What was the question? Jonty's just completely.
It is. We are announcing the worst signing of the season. So not necessarily a loan signing. It could be a permanent signing. But it's quite a controversial winner. Quite a controversial winner.
I don't think you had loan signings on this one, if I remember right. I think we did permanents. I think.
Good catch.
I think I went Adam Forshaw, which I felt a bit harsh on, but I don't think any of the others I could really put. So
I don't remember who I put.
I think I put Cantwell. There's a lot of comments coming in for Cantwell, and I think mine was Cantwell. But again, you could. I'll tell you what would have been an interesting topic: disappointment of the year, because you could have had Dennis, you could have had Cantwell, you could have had Cozy Dewberry. You know, there's a whole host of people there that. And you know, if anybody ever watches this, like one of the players, you know, take that in the spirit that it's meant, is because we had high expectations. Reputation preceded them, sort of thing. So, you know, Cantwell just didn't live up to. You know, he used to be in my fantasy team week in, week out for Norwich, sort of thing. And then he went to Rangers, and he kind of went off my radar. So when we signed him, I'm like, whoa, who really? Blackburn Rovers signed this guy, so. For sure. For sure.
It was for sure. 33% of the vote.
Yeah, I think if you'd have had loan signings in there, Dirk, I would have gone with Corley Woodrow, because that would by far just an absolutely pointless signing. Yeah. But I mean, out of the permanent signings we made, in my mind, it probably has to go to Forshaw, as well as Cantwell probably has underperformed if you're taking his season as a whole. He has stepped up towards the end of the season. You know, that final home game against Watford, weren't it? I mean, he got goal and assist, weren't it? And my mind still goes back to games like Middlesbrough where we win 1-0, and that piece of brilliance between Beck and Cantwell. Yeah. Yes, there has been games where he really has kind of, you know, been a shadow. He's not really made the impact. He's not had the goals in open play. To say his first goal in open play came in the second to last game of the season just isn't good enough for the amount of minutes he's played. But Forshaw, I did go with Forshaw just because now the permanent signings, it was, again, probably a bit of a underwhelming one. You know, he weren't getting in the team at a side that's just been relegated, and we're picking him up. But to be honest, I put a tweet out kind of defending him a little bit a week or so ago, saying, you know what, he comes on, he puts himself about, you know, he gets stuck in. That Sunderland game in particular impressed me because he did just kind of do the dirty work and just see out that 1-0 win. But yeah, I mean, out of the options, I had to go Forshaw.
Would you be happy to see him back next year?
I probably would, because I think he's the type of player who knows his kind of role within this squad. And when you've got Sondre and Travis who are going to be first teamers week in, week out, you do need an Adam Forshaw who is going to be content just coming on for the last 20 minutes. If one of them were to get injured, I wouldn't want Forshaw starting, I'll be honest. But for someone who's going to come on for 20 minutes and just run around and put a few tackles in, he does a job.
Yeah. Any other comments on Mr. Forshaw moving forward?
Nope.
No, that probably says it all. No, my only concern at Sheffield United, well, not my only concern, but one of my concerns at Sheffield United was we took off Travis and Tronstad and replaced him with I've just made a note of it, Forshaw and Woodrow sort of thing. And I know that, but I just thought, yeah, if that's the things of going forward, then yeah, we need to be a little bit worried because replacing those two players, yeah, it just wasn't quite cutting it for me. But I appreciate fresh legs needed a different sort of angle to the game. But those two guys came on and did very little, in my opinion. But there again, I'm going to cut them some slack because they didn't have much time to make a big impact. But I just didn't like seeing Trav and Tronstad leave the pitch and those two coming on. I just thought we're weakening that midfield massively.
Just to pick up on that point, I thought it was quite the indictment on Rankin Costello and Buckley. The fact that Val, we needed a goal. We needed to make it 2-1. Val obviously knew that, and we're bringing on Forshaw, and we're not bringing on the likes of a John Buckley who,
can play the killer ball. Yeah,
precisely can play that pass. He's got that in his locker. So for me, we might come on to it later on, but yeah, I think the writing might be on the wall for them too.
Look at that, Beck going to Burnley. That will rub salt into the wound in one of the comments. Yeah, that will be a real kick between the legs.
I haven't seen that.
Well, hopefully that's just them creating a stink. Okay, just a reminder, we are now moving on to eventually to this guy here, defender of the season. We've got the result of the goalkeeper one in, so get your votes in. It's in the chat, so do your business, and we'll get to announcing that shortly. Worst performance of the season. I should have done a sort of reveal, but hey, 3-0 Coventry is the winning vote with 20.8% of the vote. Any of you guys made the trip to that one? Probably Jonty. Yeah. Okay, take it away.
That's why we lost 3-0 because I went. No, it was at a time of the season where Coventry were on an absolute stinker. Rovers were flying. It was nailed on. It was October. Just the writing was on the wall for Rovers, an easy victory. And no, I think there's an argument that we had a really, really bad day at the office, went in a little bit complacent maybe, and Coventry were, they needed to be drug tested after that game. And I know that we know where Coventry finished and what have you, but no, it was an embarrassing performance. We didn't look up for it. We let one goal in, and ordinarily under Eustace, you used to see a bit of a fight or a couple of changes or something like that, but it was just the square root of shite. Yeah.
Yeah, I can vouch for that. I picked this one as well. Being there was just miserable. The atmosphere was absolutely dead with it being a night game, so there weren't many of us there. Coventry fans were still well up for it, to be fair, considering how crap they were at that point. But they just are our bogey team, just like we're Middlesbrough's bogey team. They are just our bogey team, and even when we were doing quite well at that point and they were at their worst, we still managed to lose 3-0 somehow. And it was the second goal where Dolan dribbled backwards towards our net, passed it to them, and then they scored. And awful. And when the third went in, that was enough for me. I left, and there's not many times at all where I've left a game early, but it was just absolutely miserable.
Yeah. Was this Lampard's Coventry or Robbins?
No, it was Thingy's. Robbins, yeah, Mark Robbins.
Oh, wow.
I reckon if they got beat that night, I think that probably would have been Robbins' last game, sort of thing. That's how That's how close it was, sort of thing. So yeah.
All right, we're going to move over to Overseas Player of the Year. Who wants to have a guess who that is?
Yuki.
Tronstad.
I'm just gonna grab something. Maybe just
I beg your pardon. it's not like on the show, Denver.
Yeah, I'm gonna come off with nothing on now. Be careful.
I'm going.
That's why you're doing those.
Oh,
This person, I'll be really upset.
Oh wow!
okay, I went small screen, but yeah, we get it. Yukio Hashi shirt. I wanted to get one of those. Did you pay full price or did you wait a little bit?
I paid full price for it at the time, yeah,
Oh,
just to make sure I got it. But when I bought it, funnily enough, we paid for the Japanese writing and everything, and then it was actually a Christmas gift. So when we'd been to the shop before, when they came, I opened it and it didn't have any Japanese lettering on the back. It had nothing on the back; it was blank. And we were like, "Wait a minute!" So we ended up going to the shop and we had to show them receipts and everything for it to get done. So just to so originally I had nothing on the back of that, but we eventually went back and got it done. So we're all right.
What a shambles our club shop is, eh?
If there's anything to go by, it kind of show the rest of the season, didn't it?
Well,
After Christmas.
Do you actually know that it says Hashi on the back? It could say anything in Japanese, and we wouldn't know, would we?
We would never know. I know I'm half time, but I have no idea what it says. It could say wanker for all I know.
Dickhead 23.
But considering how he arrived for the price and for on the back of a long Japanese season, rolling straight into the championship, he's chipped in with 10 goals and he was out. He was out for a good portion of it with an injury. I think he's
weren't starting at the start of the season either. That was Maktar.
Was it? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Was it Maktar started?
Yeah.
Yeah, but solid signing. And I'm excited. I'm excited for next year. As long as we keep him, I don't think we'll do anything stupid. I think some of the players from this season, I'm hoping Todd Cantwell grows a little bit because we're going to need some creative wizards if Dolan is going to go. But I think future is bright with this guy. A little bit of a tear. He's got it all in his locker. He's got a left foot curler, I think, against Bristol City, one of the first goals he scored. A couple of little foxes in the boxes. He scores it with his head. He's got all the gear. All the gear. Just needs a bit of support, I think.
Yeah. I'm surprised not to see Sondre because obviously he won Club Player of the Year and obviously he's an overseas player. He's who I went for, but yeah, I think there's no denying first season in English football off the back of 6 months playing in Japan. He's done really well, and I mean we only paid what $100,000 for him or so.
Yeah,
he's been a brilliant signing, and I think he's well on his way for 20 next season.
I agree. I'm just trying to see what the other 50 went. Anyone else want to chat about this fella before we roll on to the next? He might feature a couple times here. He might pick up a couple of gongs, but just trying to see. Actually, it's 50% for Yuki, and Sondre got 37%.
Yeah, I know that. I recall when I was completing it, it was a real, flip of a coin for me as to who the overseas player is, and I felt like I was doing a bit of an injustice to Tronstad by voting for Yuki. But it's his first season in English football, so that I think that's what swayed it for me.
Yeah, well, I'm sure Sondre will come out of this like glowing horseshit. Like it's he's going to stand out like a sore thumb here. You know what I mean? You'll see what I mean. Anyway, let's kick off forward. Performance of the year. This was voted by the folks here. 4-1 against Millwall. One of Big Val's games. I guess a significant game still. A fellow playoff rival who were on a good bit of form up against. Was this his first win? Was this his first win?
No.
What was his first win? It was after
Luton. Was Luton's first?
Away, yeah.
Is this the first home win?
Could have been.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, couple goals for the Norwegian Viking in the midfield.
3 goals.
Yeah. So a cracking performance for us at a pivotal time to. Because I remember looking at some of the other content out there, other people's opinions on Rovers, and nobody. I know we didn't make it in the end, and they ultimately they were right. But we gave it all in the end. We gave it a kitchen sink job, and we were there to the bitter end. And even at one point, we were in there. So, other folks out there writing us off, kind of, we've already eliminated Blackburn at this stage. They were already writing us off, and I was just hoping that we could just do it, just to shut them up, people up. But this was a stellar performance, and I was so relieved to get Big Val moving in the right direction with some wins. But you guys were there. Tell me how you feel about this one.
It was a very good game. It was so weird seeing the contrast of when I last went. Wasn't the Sheffield Wednesday game because I was playing, I think, or I was coaching, or something along those lines. But it was just a horrendous. I think it might have been Middlesbrough, and it was going from that to even Luton wasn't a fantastic game because we went down to 10 men, and we were just keeping, we're just keeping, the result at what it was. And then we go to Millwall come down, and they're flying, they're just in and around it, and we just go and spank them like we did. It was, and it was a very, very good performance as well, which was so. It was refreshing after all the noise with the Venkis and Gusted and Wagger. It was nice to just focus on the football, having a good result. And the goals were superb as well. Especially Tronstad's second goal was unreal. But funnily enough, I actually voted for a different game, which in my mind, it was my first game back after coming back from the States. And it was the Bristol City game at home where we beat them 3-0 and Yuki put 2 top bins. And for me, we just battered. And look, they're in the playoffs now. And we made them look like they were relegation.
Much longer.
At the time, though, Denver, they were crap. They were down there, to be fair, when we battered them.
And I understand, and I also understand that Millwall's more fresh in our memories for being not that from that go. But I just remember just thinking, wow, like all these signings that we've made, Yuki scoring goals for fun, and that's when the song came about, because he's just scoring. He scored 2 wonder goals, and it was just a superb performance. So that was for me. Still be my vote, but Millwall I was also there for that, and that was superb.
I think the only other thing to add to that is the Millwall manager. Is it McLeish, somebody like that?
Alex Neil.
I knew it was Mc something. Alex Neil, because I was at Millwall when we got beat 1-0, which was the start of our horrendous drought of wins, and they were all wanting Alex Neil at the time. And to be fair, since Alex Neil picked up the reins with Millwall, they just went on a fantastic run, and broadly, and Alex Neil. What the point I'm trying to make? Alex Neil kind of football. They're a really, really difficult team, and not many teams put even 2 past them, let alone 3 or 4. So I think that's what made it even more special. Ironically, though, I wasn't there for that game. There you go, the Johnny Jinx even at home. I was working away, but I kind of watched it, But no, just a really solid performance, and very on Alex Neil like kind of result. So I think that's what makes it even more pleasing for me, because I could honestly see Millwall, sort of beating us at home at the time. Yes, we were on the back of a Luton victory as well, but even that was a little bit shaky in places, sort of thing. Luton could have quite easily, even taken the lead or even equalised, and we were down to 10 men in the Luton game, sort of thing. So I could just see Millwall being a bit of I was going to say a banana skin, but that would make it sound like we were destined to win, but no, that wasn't the case for me. So I'm pretty sure I voted for Millwall, even though I wasn't there.
I voted for Millwall as well. I think it was a result we desperately needed, as Jonty just said. The Luton result, being Val's first win, was a bit of a snatch and grab. Obviously with 10 men, and they rattled the crossbar, they rattled the post. So to kind of have that resounding victory at home, and to be like, right, Val proved himself there. That was, we've just turned over a side that was very much in the playoff race at that point. And at that point, really, we were thinking, obviously, we were out of it, but that win kind of, to my mind anyway, kind of put us back in the conversation somewhat. So it was a win we desperately needed, and we embarrassed them, really. We really did. And apparently they're another team that kind of hate playing us, a bit like Middlesbrough. So I guess we're one of their bogey teams too.
Yeah, I think Alex Neil's also got a bit of a hump against Blackburn Rovers from his Preston North End days. I read some comments about him prior to the game about, maybe ill feeling a little bit towards Blackburn. So it was also quite good to rub his face in it. So we have the result of our Goalkeeper of the Season award. Any surprises? Do you think any surprises?
I reckon the winner is going to be Toth, but I didn't vote for him.
No, it was Mr. Pears. Pears sweeps
was
it in
it?
there. Yeah. Well, I think it's right. It all good. Toff did a great end of the season, but Pears, of course, played the majority of games. Have we seen the last of Ainsley Pears? Do you think?
No.
He's off to Man United, apparently, Dirk.
Well, I think his name's in the mix. I think also that Woodman fella is also off to Manchester United. So it's either him or him, and I think Woodman's on a free. So, and it's Man United. So
they're going to get relegated next season anyway. So
yeah.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Do you think there's any? Why did they play him in the end?
I think if Pears is smart, he'd leave this summer because I think the writing might be on the wall for him. I think Val clearly favours Toff, and Pears has got himself to a point now where he's no longer seen as a number two. I think it's probably right if he moved on now. He's also at an age where he shouldn't really be a number two anymore either. He's kind of in his prime years. There's a lot of people saying, "Oh, we should go get Kaminsky now," but he's been relegated. But if we brought Kaminsky in, that means dropping Toff back down to number two, and I think Toff probably has done enough to warrant the number one spot. He really didn't put foot wrong in those last stretch of games, and he did pull off that save at Luton, which kept it at 1-0. Just got a fingertip to it, which made the difference pushing onto the crossbar. So I think I did vote Pears just on the balance of things, and I didn't want to go off recency bias where, Top has only played 6 games. I can't give it him off 6 games, and even then, early in the season when Top played, I thought he was quite pants. Mine goes back to Coventry and Wolves. Really wasn't good, but Pears did keep. My mind goes back to Sunderland at home, where that fella's through 1-on-1 and Pears makes an unbelievable save to keep it at 2-2. He does deserve his flowers, but I think it's just clear that Val just prefers Toff over Pears.
I think that's a little bit harsh on Pears. I don't know if it's about favourability. I think, of course, the Luton game was when he made the first change, and that was due to Pears being ill, wasn't it? He had an illness, and they were trying to get him in, but he just wasn't ready. So they put Toth in, and then we get our first win under Toth. So don't break anything while it's not. It worked. Toth in goal was good. So that even if Pears is back, why change that if Toth's doing a good enough job? And I think that's just how it is. This illness has just caught him at the wrong period, and Toth's been performing, so he's kept them in. I feel like any excuse if Toth made a mistake, I think Pears goes straight back in. It's like a goalkeeper, right? It's one of the hardest positions. You're either in or you're not. It's one of those where you're looking. If something's going well, it's gonna be hard to get back in the squad. And I think just at that period of time, it was in Toth's favour, not in Pears' favour. He's had his illness. Toth's come in, and the wins kept coming, and you're just not, as a manager and as a coach, you're just not going to change that while it's going well. So I don't think Pears has done anything particularly wrong. I think it was just that unfortunate circumstances has put Toth in a.
Do you think Pears will be number one next season then?
You never know. I could see a world where he could be. I can see a world where he could be, but you just got to wait and see, and you never know. There's a lot of training games to go, a lot of pre-season games to go. He's gonna have a look at everything, and I could see him getting back in for the start of the game in August. But hey, we got to wait and see, eh?
Yeah, I think Pears has done really well, to be fair. I think this season he's really come into his own, shown us what kind of keeper he is. I think where my head was when I voted for I had to think about it quite a lot, but I think I narrowed it down to there's one mistake in Pears would lead to a goal, and for me there was maybe 2 mistakes in Toff would lead to a goal. So I think that's what kind of did it. But also when I'm watching the game live, I prefer the way that Pears. So what he demands of the defenders, and you see him shouting a lot more than what Toth did. Now it might be a bit of game time sort of thing, but I do like a keeper that's a little bit gobby, that's constantly shouting. Even when we're attacking, he's there speaking to the 2 central defenders. And critiquing what they've done, sort of thing. And I like that in the keepers. So Pears edged it for me. That said, I think if Pears was to move on and Toth was to start between the sticks, I think there's potential of a really, really good keeper there, sort of thing. But he just again, we'll keep saying it just needs game time. Sort of, he's got to adapt to the English game. It's completely different from where he's come from, sort of thing. There's probably he'll be the first to admit that. So I think we've got two good keepers at Rovers. I think if both of them were to stay, I think it'll be quite interesting to watch it unfold as to who the first choice keeper is. And like Jacob said, if one of them, excuse the pun, drops a ball in one of the games, then will that instantly mean a knee-jerk reaction and the other one comes in the game after? So let's hope we can keep. I think to be a challenging championship team, you need sort of a really good number two across a whole squad, really, sort of thing. So if you don't, again, we're not going to keep Beck. I'd love to, but we're not going to keep him. But those two fighting it out for the left back position would be a great thing to watch unfold. But I know that's not going to happen, is it?
Well, we've got Pickering and Ribeiro now fighting for it. So
the silence said it all.
No, Ribeiro's solid. I think he's a good.
Pickering's solid when he wants to be.
Yeah.
Oh, when he can be asked.
Yeah, he can be asked. So we do have the result of the defender of the season. Any surprises? Any guesses? Who wants to chuck their hat in here?
I can see it at the bottom of the screen, so I'm going to keep I'm going to keep a hush, but I don't know.
I didn't know that. I did not know you could see that.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll do the big reveal. There it is. What a surprise!
Yeah.
I didn't vote for him. I'm going to be honest.
I am. Sorry,
I'm pretty sure he went for Danny Bart.
Yeah,
and Callum Britton was my most improved player. Sorry to be a bit of a spoiler on this, but Danny Bart, I think he's quite grossly underrated at Rovers, because I think when it's Hyam and Carter, Hyam dictates to Carter and constantly is the mentor for Carter, but then when Danny Barr's in, he's a mentor for Hyam. So I think I said, shoot me down if I'm wrong, Dirk, but I'm pretty sure I said Danny Barr as defender of the season for me, and then Callum Britton, fantastic season, but I put him down as the most improved. But I love Danny Barr's communication with all the back line, with the keeper as well. He's just an organizer, and it's almost Colin Hendry-esque, the way that he constantly shouts and it leads by example, and just that big central figure in the team, quite easily a club captain for me.
Yeah, to be fair to John, it's one of probably the only good takes he's had this season about Danny Barr. To be fair, me and Denver were here saying we'd rather have Hyam and Carter at the back, and Jonty was saying no. Look at when it's been Baffin and Hyam, the results this Saturday when we were disagreeing with him. But to be fair, I'm probably come round to that line of thinking, and I think I went Callum Britton for this because I went Danny Bath as my player of the season. So I wanted to kind of get another name in there because Callum Britton deserves his flowers this year. But yeah, Danny Bath, I thought he should have won Rovers Player of the Season. I didn't have much expectations of him coming in at all. Free signing, I thought he'd be a decent backup, but he's proved himself to be a brilliant player this season when he played, and I think he played way more minutes than he would have expected to, and he's been a stalwart at the back, hasn't he? So yeah, fair play to him, and I think Dom Hyam can probably find himself a little hard done by, considering he's played every minute this season, hasn't he, in the league? But yeah.
I did the similar thing to Jonty. I voted Danny Bart for this and Callum Britton for the most improved. But I've got to say, how good Danny Bart has been this season is we've kind of got lucky in a way with the amount of injuries we've had with our centre backs. Scotty Wharton and Hayden Carter, and just constantly. Even Dion Sanderson he had a period where he was injured as well. But look, like Danny Bart's just been Mr. Consistent, isn't he? He reminds me of very much our League One season and Paul Downing,
Mm-hmm.
just no expectation from coming in. He was a free signing. I think it was it from Portsmouth. No, it wasn't Portsmouth. Was it Portsmouth that we got him from?
Sunderland.
Pull down. Was it Portsmouth? Or,
I thought you were on Danny Barr for Sunderland.
It was either
down,
Portsmouth. We loaned him, and then we loaned him back out to Doncaster, I think, in the end. But yeah, he was just, Darrell Lenihan, bang, big injury. What we're going to do? And Paul Dowditch comes in and was superb, that unsung hero during that League One period. So I'm Danny Barter's in that, like, he's a must keep. We must keep him. How much we're going to use him again next season? Is it going to be a McFadzean scenario where he played loads of games, he signs on, and then we don't see much of him, at all? But I hope we do, because he's been phenomenal this season.
Yeah, so let me just say the vote this morning was 50-50 between Britton and Danny Bart for Defender of the Year. They're both, that's why I put the vote out there. Needed someone to decide. So blame this lot for voting Callum Britton your Defender of the season.
Rovers guys asked you a question in the chat, Jonty. Would you have Carter and Bath rather than Hyam and Bath?
I don't really care as long as Danny Barr's in there. Do you know what I mean? Because he just orchestrates that back four brilliantly, sort of thing. So I rate Carter. I rate Scotty Wharton as well. So yeah, I think if we can keep those four central defenders, I'm all right with that. I think they're very, very good Championship players. I think my concern will be is if we went up into the Premier League, would some of those be able to make that big leap up? Probably not. But in terms of Championship, if we can keep those big four central defenders, yeah, we're not going to be leaky with silly goals that you can see. Yeah, we're going to leak the occasional silly goal, but yeah, no, quietly happy. But yeah. A long way to answer a short question. As long as it starts with Danny Barr, I'm all right with whoever's next to him.
Yeah, I think the four defenders that we have, central defenders, that's probably an area we won't really touch unless he rips up the tactics, balls go three at the back, then of course it's something else to play with.
Anderson signs for $1 million, eh? That's what will happen.
Yeah, well.
I think nice, Dirk, talk to me about your cap. I love that cap.
Oh yes. There's a story about this cap. So I have this cap here. I was wearing it on this lovely, amazing, fantastic holiday on a barge. I was on the barge for maybe 2 minutes, and then the wife was not happy with my driving skills on the barge, and her arms were flaying all over. Then I lost the hat, and they're rare like rocking horse shit, these hats, and it was floating down the disgusting canal. I don't know. In Burnley, yeah. And so I was sad. I was down dumps. I was, it was just the lowest point I've ever been. And then Jonty stepped up to the plate and he goes, "Here, I got this for you to put a smile back on my face." And Jonty gave me this lovely hat, and I haven't taken it off since.
Me and Denver have luscious looks, so we don't require cap.
Well, give it time, lads. Give it time.
I am going to just say, did Jonty just like praise himself there? Oh, just put the hat there. Go on.
I actually told this same story like last night. The folks that put me up when I'm here, they go, "Oh, that's a lovely hat." So it's an interesting story about this hat. So I've much appreciated.
Getting into the canal and saving the hat, did you not, Dirk? I'm guessing.
Oh, I was more focused on driving that piece of shit barge. It was a nightmare. Okay.
I just love that there's a Blackburn Rovers cap somewhere in the Burnley Canal. Do you know what I mean? It's just I'm gonna have a look for it.
I was fuming, but it was also a very stressful first day or two on the barge. Next up, we're going to go midfielder of the year. Any surprises? Any guesses? I haven't checked it yet. We can't see it. Who's it going to be?
I think I voted Travis because I gave Sondre Overseas Player of the Year.
Yeah,
I imagine it's between the two of them.
He's better than Concrete, I think, though.
Yeah, I think I'm the same. I think I went Trav on the theory of who would I least want to see leave the club this summer, should God forbid that happen, and that's why I voted Trav, but also understanding and giving credit to Tronstad's amazing season with Player of the Season or something like that. So
there was a
I think
spell.
I went Trav.
there was a spell where for about 5 years, the player of the year for Blackburn, official player of the year for Blackburn Rovers, would leave the next transfer window.
Huh.
We lost. Was it Derek Williams, and then we lost I think Tom Kearney or something. Tom Kearney got it. Someone else. Yeah. All the way. The following window, they were no longer.
So Mac Talgate's got it. Mac Talgate, come on, tell me now.
He's not a midfielder, Jonty.
He's not. He's not. But this guy is
Ryan Hedges.
John Buckley. It's Andre Tronstad. If there was multiple votes, then I'm sure Johnny would have got Buckley. Got him.
Yes.
So, who wants to talk about the Viking in the midfield? Cracking season. Can they play them? Will he play them both next season? Talk about they're trying to get some new midfield options. Should we be worried about the success or his trajectory right now? I think he's definitely one of the better players on the pitch, if not the best player, and a crucial part in us moving forward. But will he and Travis both be a feature next season?
I think like the two, Travis would be more likely to go, in my opinion. Anyway, bit more commercial value with him being English. I think he's probably a year or two younger as well. So, but personally, who I would rather keep, I don't know. It's a real coin flip for me. But yeah, go on, Denver. You were going to say something. Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say what you pretty much just said. I was just gonna say, look, I can't see him leaving on the basis of his age and had value moving forward. If anyone was going to sign him, it may be a January signing where someone's really pushing on, maybe wanted to try and get out the championship, and it'll be a look, come and help us get out the championship kind of move. I can't see anyone going, oh, he's going to be someone with loads of sell on value afterwards. And if anyone's going to sign it, would be one of the top three. And out of Ipswich, Southampton, I can't see anyone really wanting Sondra. So yeah, in that same boat. And again, so I can see him being a part of the sea. So we're breaking that curse of those players leaving. I can see him staying. Don't hold me to that. He might go for whatever reason. If it was someone abroad or there's someone out there who might be interested in signing him, but I can't see why. And we would want to let him go.
Right.
Jonty clearly doesn't want to talk about him. Oh, he's back.
No, I did the honourable thing. My laptop needed plugging in. The plug is behind here, and I didn't want to stand my crotch here whilst I was plugging everything in here. So I did an honourable thing. I'm sorry to disappoint you, Denver. But anyway, where were we? Tronstad. Fantastic season. Hopefully, we keep him. My only concern is Tronstad and Travis, very, very similar players, both get stuck in. So do we need to play them both all the time, especially at the home games against your slightly weaker teams? Probably not, is my opinion. I'd like to see us a little bit more attacking, just playing one of them there, especially given the defence. And we've kind of waxed lyrical on this podcast about how good the back four can be, sort of thing. So yeah, I'd like to put a bit more pressure on the back four and therefore play us a further 10 yards up the field. But no, Tronstad, it reminds me, and this might be again slightly controversial, but Richie Smallwood in his prime, he's just that tough tackler, horrible terrier that's constantly at the feet. But I think we've seen a slightly different side of Tronstad's game recently, that he can score goals and he can assist in some really positive play as well. So I'd like to see more of that. If we're going to play Travis and Tronstad, Travis at the start of the season showed that he can play a little bit further up the field. So you're going to start taking gambles if you're playing both of them, and I think that probably differentiates some of the your Burnleys, your Sheffield United, your Leeds United is that you can mix it up a little bit, sort of thing, and they don't need to be, I'm a central defensive midfielder. Okay, that's your position, but it doesn't need to be like that for 90 minutes. Somebody, I think Rovers guy, put it into the chat about Carter going up the field. I love seeing that. Just do something that breaks up the play. I can't remember who it was against this season, but Carter just going on a bit of a mazy run up the field. Whoa, that should not happen. You know what I mean? And it confuses everybody, sort of thing. It's like, and it was like the Red Sea just opening up, and he just carried on and carried on. And you know what? If that's going to happen, knock yourself out, go for it. But you need other players to understand that that's happening, and they can fill in the gaps. You know, if that does happen, I think that's the championship for me, is that you've got to be slightly unorthodox at times, and you know, not that. You know, my biggest criticism of this season is that we've put our foot too much on the ball recently, stop the play, let everybody get back in position, ready to defend us, and then we've gone back to training ground, passing it around, sort of thing, and trying to break them down that way. No, for me, you've got the ball, knock yourself out. I'd much if we end up conceding, so be it. But we've had a real good go at them, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, where were we? Tronstad. Yeah, he's done all right, hasn't he?
Yeah. Moving on. Should we move on? Let's move on. Let's move on to the attacker of the year. Who do we think? I'm not putting it up there. I'm not giving you guys.
Yuki.
It's going to be Yuki in it, yeah.
I was thinking, is it Yuki? I would have given a shot for Andy Vyman. You know, I think he's quietly underneath the radar and just really important goals. Burnley, for example. But
yeah, it's a great goal. But Yuki, first season in English football, he's, you know, potentially he could have been flop of the year, couldn't he? Because he take time to adjust and, you know, all the usual excuses. But no, this guy's hit the ground running, and you know, we've missed him. I think the biggest compliment you can pay this guy is that, you know, when he was out injured, you know, that was a real noticeable difference to not only that central forward position, but also just his work ethic as well. He's just, you know, constantly just creating the opposition to make mistakes and what have you. So no, chuffed to bits with him.
I think Denver makes a fair point in regards to Vyman. I mean, obviously Vyman's missed the kind of last quarter or so of the season, and he was the top goal scorer when he got injured. You know, it's only recently Yuki's kind of pulled that back, but yeah, I mean Vyman as well, with a lot of less minutes than Yuki, I would have thought. Obviously, a lot of those minutes coming off the bench and stuff, and being in the right place at the right time. But I do think I voted Yuki, and yeah, he deserves it. First season English football, double figures. Just played 6 months in Japan prior to that. Yeah, he's been brilliant, hasn't he?
No, I love Yuki as well, but I think I voted Vyman just on the basis, of course. We've forgotten about him the past 6, but like that goal against Burnley, of course, is infamous, and it'll always be. But the really important goals against Cardiff, the two, I know they were tap-ins, they were really good, well worked goals, but right place, right time to put them away. The goal against Norwich, we might not even have this whole end of season. In the FA Cup against Middlesbrough, he's just scored some really, really important goals to keep us in games, and it was Mr. Real out. You knew, right? Things aren't going well. You bring Andy Vyman on, you've got a really good chance to score a goal, and I think he's been when he come in, on a free from Bristol City. What were the hopes? What we expecting? When you sign Yuki, you're a bit of like, oh, this is an unknown territory. But you're signing a 30-year-old Andy Vyman, 31, was he around there? And
he's up there.
Yeah, it's not. I didn't have loads of hope, and then he goes and scores on his debut against Derby. That header from that mazy run from Carter that Jonty was talking about before. The lovely sits 2 defenders and just puts it in the back of the net, and it's just. I think Vyman is. I'd love to keep him for another season, even after his injury. Just love to keep him for another. Just someone who potentially you bring him on, you're likely to score a goal and keep us in games.
Get him signed up. He's actually going to be 34 in August. So
he was 33 when he scored that goal. There you go.
And there's something about him and Danny Bart. There's just reliable professionals. I think we need that as amongst some of the exciting prospects that we could bring in. Maybe some like unknown entities, but these guys are tried and trusted championship pros that will give you that cool calmness. And also can score epic goals that we could talk about for years. So the right thing that Big Val should do is get him tapped up, get Danny back tapped up for another year. Just get them 1-year deals. Just revisit every summer and until they're like completely crocked.
I hope so, Dave, but I worry that the way Val's kind of speaking, we're going more towards the John Dahl kind of philosophy of having such a young team and, relying on the academy and all this, where we started that season when John Doyle as Ryan Hedges as our oldest player at 29 or 28,
Right.
whatever it was, which is so daft. But I hope there's a balance there. I really do. Eustace, by the sounds of it, the board weren't kind of happy that the average age had gone up so much. The amount of academy minutes had gone down a lot under him. But we saw a noticeable difference at the end when Eustace come in of last season. Obviously got us the points to stay up by having those more experienced heads, your McFadzeans and whatnot. And then this season having your more experienced players at this level, your Danny Batch, your Andy Vimans, they have made a difference this season. So, I don't want to be in a situation again where we're going to Turf Moor with fucking Jake Garrett starting in midfield. You know what I mean? Like, we need a balance there. I can understand why we're desperately trying to get young players to sell on. We need to be a selling club, but to stay in this league and have a good chance at the playoffs every season, you need your experienced veterans in there as well.
Yeah, and I think towards the end of the season, he did start chucking in a few. Montgomery came in, even young Igor got a run out. So, he was leaning towards that already. But I think I've read on record that he says he wants to keep all expiring players. So
that's good.
So that's what he said on record. Whether he agrees with the recruiting people or whatever, that's another story. But at least there's a quote out there that I would like to keep all expiring players. Even including Tyree Stone, which
it's a shame about Ryan Hedges, but
yeah, well, I don't know what he did. He must make a cracking brew or something like that. I don't know what he does. Anyway, so we know Yuki won that. I don't even know what's coming next. What have we got next? It is Manager of the Year. Lovely, fucking lovely. Okay, let me get there. Any surprises? David Lowe. Oh, it is this guy.
That's win percentage, I'm sure.
Yeah, the Snake. John the Snake Roberts. John the Snake Eustace.
Yeah, I voted for him, to be fair. I mean, obviously, to get us as high as he did before he left, I think, he does deserve it. And obviously, at the start of the season, no one would have expected us to be at the heights we were when he left. So, ultimately, if we hadn't have had such a dreadful run under Val, we would have made playoffs. So, and that's not to say, to be fair, it was going pear-shaped towards the end under Eustace. I'm not blind to see that, but he did get us there in the first place, didn't he? So,
yeah, I went Ismail.
Really?
For real?
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately under Val, it's 4 wins, 2 draws, 6 losses. Like it's look at the results.
Okay, Eustace is dead to me, mate. So we move on. Ismail. I've had a bit of shit on the previous podcast that we did just pre-Sheffield United game because I kept saying Ishmael, and I got told there's no H in there. So but yeah, so I went Ismail. I'm going to be loyal to the man that we've got now, Eustace. We went on a downward spiral. For me, it was like a broken record talking about this togetherness and all that shite. So yeah, I just went with.
I love Jonty's controversial take.
I love it. I do. It makes interest watch.
But then what
about Ismail's broken record about intensity? Is that not getting boring for you? Is it?
No, because that wins games. That wins games for me. The intensity just keep the pressure on them, and we have moved 10, 15 yards further up the field. So I'm going to go with that. So no, in Big Val we trust.
Yes, Big Val.
Yeah, I agree.
I've got somebody in agreement. So
I've always liked my Big Val. Ever since I'm not, No,
we have. To be fair, me and you have. He was best of the rest, wasn't he? I think we said said that.
The dream sheet was Stevie Cooper, but
yeah, he was a wet dream, wasn't he? And but it was never going to happen. So he was the best of the rest, and I think he'll do all right. I really do.
Me too.
Might come back and bite me on my backside, but hey ho, I'll
down on the ship.
Well, you two are in the minority here, so that's all that matters.
Fine. I'll give him his plaudits, but I just thought about it for looking into John just a little bit. seems to be a cap. He goes on a good run towards the end, back into Birmingham. Of course, it swings and roundabouts. It might come back again, but he was tailing off at Birmingham before he did get the chop. And he was also tailing off, of course, with Blackburn Rovers. It was a good. We were in a shit zone there with him, and he left. He left us in the shit. The team was down. The team morale was crushed. It's not a light switch that Big Val comes in and flicks the morale back on. He has to get it back. He has to, eventually showcase what he's all about. And I think he got the tune out of them in the end. And hopefully, heading into a summer, they'll see Big Val is the man, and I've already said we're gonna improve upon 7th place next season, and I'll put the hat on the line.
Mark Anderson in the
again,
comments. To be fair, he put togetherness and outstanding. Did not have any other words in his vocabulary, so I can only assume he's talking about Eustace there as well. Darwin Rover, I appreciate Eustace accumulated the points for us this season. He's gone now. His history. There was Rovers before him. There'll be Rovers after him. Yeah, I agree with all of that. We've got to stick with the man that we've got. Absolutely, just get behind him and support him. And yeah, I think I've got a really good feeling about him. I really do.
We're very high.
There you are, Sam Slinger. There you go. Thanks for correcting Ismail's pronunciation. Thumbs up. So yeah,
look at that, killing it.
I got a lot of shit for that. Yeah,
I agree. I agree with Rovers guys' recent comment. Just saying, just putting it out there that we would have been nowhere near the playoffs if it weren't for the work Eustace had done. So,
he did great. He did great work. Got us defending. Got us, as one.
I think we're allowed to vote for manager of the season. Someone who surpassed expectations, and that was John Eustace, and we've got that vote in. That's it now. We're not going to mention Eustace again. He's at Derby. They stayed up, unfortunately, and we're going to play him next season. Hopefully, Big Val can get one over him. So
good way to put him in the bin there.
Yeah.
All right. Lone player of the year.
Beck.
Did we do this already? I don't think we did, right? But
Coley Woodrow. Oh well,
it is. Well, we already picked up the young player of the year. Now he's got the low and 100% clean sweep as well with the vote. So Beck is a popular fella.
And to be fair, Dirk, if you'd have put Tyrese Dolan in young player of the season, I probably would have gone with him. But I don't think he was there. It depends what you kind of see as a young player. But yeah, I think Beck, I'd have him back in a heartbeat. But I could see him maybe playing in the Prem next season for a side who are kind of more down there. But yeah, well, maybe. Let's just hope it's not Burnley. But yeah, out of the 3 left backs we have this season, by far the best. It's a shame he dropped off, but he was literally playing every minute and had to because Pickering was injured and there was no backup. So, and then it seems to me Val kind of rushed him back a bit too quickly, didn't he? And getting injured at Portsmouth and writing him off at the end of the season.
Yep.
Denver's clearly said enough about Beck. He doesn't want to say anymore.
Well, let's kick on. Unless you've got something else to.
Look, yeah, he's been. We've said a lot about Beck, and I've said a lot about Beck, and he's been phenomenal. And I hope he has a good career moving forward. And yes, we maybe rushed him back a little bit too soon, but yeah, Owen Beck was phenomenal. I'd like to put a shout out for because none of our loans other than Beck have been really stand out. I'd like to mention Dean Sanderson. I think he come in. We've signed a loan player from League One. Doesn't exactly fill you with loads of joy, and he's come in that first game alone. I think it will go down in history with the tackle and then the ball to the face. And he's loved every minute at the club. And look, yeah, he maybe not have got the minutes that he wanted to, but with how we were and the players that we had, when he come in, he always did a solid job. That Sunderland game, come in and just was superb. And I think for a player, young player coming from League One, never mind, low expectations, really low expectations, like you call Woodrow and so on. I think he did a really good job. I think just because it was a short period of time that we did see him on the pitch and from a January perspective, because we've seen Owen Beck throughout most of the season. I think it's an honourable mention.
Nice touch there.
Have we done bladder of the season yet? Because I've lost that award, haven't I?
Yeah, yes, we
I'll
lost
be-
you for a minute.
I'll be bottom of that list, won't I?
What about? I was the loan signing of the season. What about signing of the season?
So these are only permanent.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I'd be Yuki, surely. Well, Jonty would have voted Max, though, wouldn't
Yeah, exactly. What a signing.
it was Yuki with 54.2% of the vote.
he? Mm.
I wonder who got the other bunch.
Yeah.
Simon in that conversation? I'm sure he must have been.
He would have been, I'm
You
sure.
think Danny Bath would have been as well, you'd think.
Yeah, those three would have been the options, wouldn't they? But
Yeah.
Yuki again, superb. What more else to say?
Yeah, just trying to get to find the breakdown of who got what. Signings of the season. So next was, oh my gosh, Danny Bart was joint next with Todd Cantwell.
Oh,
Wow.
shit.
Yeah.
Todd Cantwell that high. What percentage was that, Dirk?
16.7. They both got 16.7%.
Right.
Yuri's up there as well.
I'm surprised at that, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I think Yuri's been decent, but I wouldn't say he's signing of the season contender for me anyway. I think he started quite well and kind of dropped off a bit in a few of the games. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting between him and Pickering next season.
Again, it's nice to have a selection box of players and have a bit of depth, which is always and like you said, I think Johnny said it about playing less, like maybe not two defensive midfielders all the time, and just have the ability to switch it up and have a bit more of a creative guy alongside a terrible graphic there of Yuki. Anyway, it's all pixelated. Anyway, next up we have most improved.
Callum
Britain.
Wow, you guys.
I don't know his middle name. It would have been good for me to chuck that in there, then.
Yeah.
You could have just made it up, Eric.
Yeah. But then it would have been Callum Britain Eric. I don't think that would have worked. Well.
Well, you're all wrong. It ain't Callum Britain.
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
Dolan.
No, give up.
It's recency bias, that for me. It's recency bias.
Definitely. His last 6 games were crazy. Prior to that, he was, whatever.
Tyree Stolen.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'd even say even Sheffield United he didn't do loads. Like I don't think it was the last 5.
It was a poor last game, I think.
But
there were times early in this season where I would have driven myself to wherever the hell he would have wanted to go. I mean, that like we said before, John, to that Coventry game where he literally dribbled the ball back towards our net and then passed it to the opposition, just doing such daft stuff.
Criminal.
Yeah, and I understand he's a young lad, but the amount of games he's played at this level, there's no excuse in my opinion. He's such a frustrating player for probably about 2/3 or maybe 3/4 of this season. And yes, he has stepped up recently, and he is one of the reasons why we managed to claw our way back into that playoff conversation. I'll give credit where it's due there. But most improved have to go to Callum Britton for me, and I think I probably would have voted Callum Britton.
He did get second, just to,
I think Callum Britton as well. So I think I voted Callum Britton, but Tyree Stolen has improved. His numbers, especially this season. Again, I know it was a large majority towards the end of the season, but he has been, again, what's he doing it for? Is he doing it for himself? He's doing it for the shop window. Look at me. Look, I'm on a free. I'm doing quite well. All the rumours with Middlesbrough and Derby going around at the minute, but he has been a good player. Would you right? So of course, before his immense run, we would have said we didn't mind if he did go, but are we looking at it differently now at the end of the season? I know he's kind of like, we've been flirting with other clubs. Would you potentially look to want
It's a good question. Yeah, it's a good question. It's because where's his head at? I think it's already called out on some of the comments. He's only ups his game because he's put himself in the shop window, sort of thing. So that winds me off the clock because I think we've all, again, maybe he could be a great challenger for most frustrating player of the season, because everybody can see that he's got potential there, but he's just one too many step overs. And if he's not doing that, he'll just pick the wrong pass, and it'll always be to the opposition. And it's so disappointing. But I think, for he's never going to listen to this, but I wish he would. But him going to another club now would be a big mistake for him. How many players have we seen leave Blackburn Rovers and go on and do the square root of jack shit? And I'll include Sammy Schmodix in there, as controversial as it will be. It'd be great to open up some of these. Mahoney's another classic that, there's not many Blackburn Rovers players that go on and do great things. Yes, a few of the loan signings like Van Heck, he's having a tremendous, but he was quality, he was class. But there's a lot of Rovers players that think that the grass is greener on the other side. They go there, they warm the substitutes bench if they're lucky, but they just don't go on to the potential that they could be. So for me, another season of the Tyrese Dolan that we saw in the last 6 games at Rovers, and then get yourself a big transfer move if you carry on at in the same sort of intensity that you showed at the last 6 games. But yeah, do not move on too soon, sort of thing. There's a player in there. He's a young lad. Another season at Rovers, I think, will do him a world of good. He's loved there. He's familiar with the surroundings. I can think of some of my own colleagues that they start putting in a real decent performance, but they go and move somewhere else, and then you never hear from them. So he's got great potential. He's shown that. I think another season at Rovers will do him the world of good.
I just wanted to check Dolan's stats because Denver said he'd increased in terms of his productivity.
Back checking.
So I thought he started the season again this year, and he was saying, "I need to step up." Smodix is gone, and he's probably said that the past 3 or 4 years, like when Diaz left and whatnot. And he's finished the season on 7 goals in 44 games. In the past 3 seasons, 5, 4, and 4, but he had about 10 less games in those seasons, 8 to 10 less games. So, I mean, in my opinion, for the amount of time he's been playing in this side, he should have at least brought double figures once in a season, especially this season with the amount of minutes he's played, and he hasn't. Would I want him to stay? Yes, I probably would, because are we going to pick up a signing who's as good as him on a free? No. But I wouldn't mind him leaving and seeing someone with a bit more pace on that right-hand side, because I do think that hinders him a lot for me. He's got little legs and he looks fast, but he really isn't.
And when you think about it, he's leaving on a free. I think he's in that age category that will get something out of it. But when you look around at EFL, look around Europe, there are other Tyrese Dolans out there leaving their clubs on a free. So, if the recruitment guys have got their hats on, and I do believe that they will, because there's a bit of a reboot in the recruitment staff. A guy that was, I don't know what his name was, Owen, the Owen guy. I think he came from Poland or something like that. He had his fingers in a lot of pies over there. So I'm quietly optimistic that we will find some shrewd bit of business to somebody who wants to be here. Of course, Tyrese Dolan is at a point right now. He's going to have options that are going to probably stick another 0 on the end of his pay packet, and that's probably what drives people.
Just to call out to Mark Anderson, really, because he's nailed it with one name on there when I was talking about, people in the comments will be able to mention other players that have not done anything after moving on from Rovers, but David Bentley, classic example that, just amazing. Went on. I can't even remember where he went. Amazing at Rovers, just went on. And I can probably do it. In fact, I'm going to set myself a little bit of homework here. I'm going to do all the players that left Rovers on, they were top of the game or massively improved and just went on and did the square root of nothing. There's another kid, I can't think what his name is. He wasn't a kid, but
Run Roads.
Rudy Gestad.
Yeah, Rudy.
Well, Rudy Gestad, yeah, but no, there was another. Marshall, what was his name?
Ben Marshall. He retired young as well. He retired at like 28, 29 because he just completely fell off.
Yeah, but Marshall, classic example. Thought he was much better than what he was. And where is he now? Chorley FC or something like that? No disrespect to Chorley.
I think he signed on for Darwin for a little minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, Millie was saying. Rovers guys got a question for us here. If we could bring back one Rovers player right now from recent years, who would we go for that's not retired? I think for me it'd be Smodics. I'd have him back in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Alan Shearer.
I think I like Adam Armstrong. He was decent.
Adam Armstrong.
Yeah, up top. That's a weak area for us, I think.
Maury Bell.
No, Denver. No.
In fact, I'll tell you what, that is a really good question. But what about if you could bring back one lone player that has played for Rovers, let's say in the last 5 or 6 seasons, that you could bring him back tomorrow? Who would that be? For me, it's a dead easy one. But
I
I've
think
already mentioned his name.
in my head, I've got Harvey Elliott and Van Heck.
Yeah,
Yeah,
those have been my two.
Yeah,
Van
I'd
Heck.
probably go Harvey Elliott.
Harvey Elliott because I'm quite happy with Danny Bart.
Yeah.
Van Heck for me, he was just immense. Just what a player he was. He was just so calm and collected, and
didn't he stick the boot in that guy's face when he got sent off, or the Fulham one? That
was Fulham 7-1. Yeah, 7-0. Sorry.
Yes.
Karate kicked and came back after that and was just like a completely different player, weren't he? But yeah, I think for me, Harvey Elliott right now, because we need someone on that right hand side once Dolan's left. So there you go.
Rovers guy. He drinks a vodka, he drinks a Jaeger, and is massive.
Randy Amber. You know the song.
Next up, we got the win of the year. Now, what was the win of the year? It was according to the people's vote, which not John T. Hang on a minute, I got the because that's what happened.
I assume it's probably the same as the performance of the year.
No, it's not. It's
Vlogger of the year.
There it is. Leeds.
Right. Okay.
1-0 win. 29.2% of the vote.
Yeah, I did that. I voted Leeds at home. I think for the simple reason that they were absolutely riding the crest of a wave. We were a little bit shaky, I think. Was it just after Christmas or around that when we were having a bit of a...
No, you're thinking of the draw.
Oh, that was the away draw, wasn't it?
Yeah.
No, you're right. So no, that was a lot earlier on in the season. Was the about late November, early December, wasn't it? We were that was one of our six in a row, wasn't it? So and I voted for this simply for the reason that Leeds were, in my opinion, by far the most composed team down at Ewood I'd seen up until that point in the season, and they were, Premier League class sort of thing, but were just absolutely played like a togetherness. I don't know where that came from, but yeah, we were very together, weren't we? But no, we had it. There's an element that we were all together, but just a real fight in it, and it's that kind of game that you don't really see mid-season, but you could see that game absolutely mattered to every single player out on the field, and it was just a great win. Again, managing expectations, it's a game I didn't think we would win, but no, we just put bodies on the line. We did. God, so many cliches coming out now, but yeah, we just did really, really well.
I'll give credit to Eustace. He did get us good results against some big boys, last season with the Leicester and the Leeds then. And then again this time around, not losing to Burnley in his crack at it. He did. Who was in charge for the one at Ewood?
It was him.
So he won one. Well, he didn't win one. He drew one. We're going to count that as a win right now. Because it's better than getting tonked. So, he did get us some good results. But Big Val will get better.
Not bad in that game, though, if I remember correctly. I think it was pretty even, and they kind of just got a goal.
We got just once reminded me in the thing we got Dolan's disallowed goal, wasn't it?
See, so that would have been 8, Jacob.
Wow. Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
I know. It could have been a win. Should have been a win. But
so, speaking of that, because that was just a brilliant segue by me, goal of the season. There was only one vote. I didn't give anyone else a chance to vote, but realistically, it would have been a waste of a vote.
Yeah.
So, spectacular goal. We were looking like we were down and out in that game, but he stepped up big. Did McTagay get sent off in that game?
Yeah.
He assisted Vyman, though. I mean, John T won't give the credit there, I'm sure, but I will.
I remember
No,
watching that in New York.
yeah.
It was weird.
That goal, honestly, I think that will be talked about for years to come. Not only because it was against our six-fingered freaks, but it was such an amazing goal. I think I called it out, shortly after we did a podcast shortly after the Burnley game, and there's some Burnley fans that released a couple of videos on TokTik and InstaFace and all that good stuff, and they were you actually hear Burnley go, as soon as it leaves his foot, it's like
Going
just
way,
well wide, and it goes in, and you even hear it on Sky Sports as well. But that for me, and this is a big statement, but 38 years of watching Blackburn Rovers, I still think that is probably up there in the top 3 of best goals I've ever seen in a Blackburn Rovers shirt. It's that good. It just, again, I'm probably repeating myself from what I've said from previous podcasts, but if you watch it back, the guy, Andy Weimann, is almost parallel with the 18-yard box, and he's facing the Rovers fans. So to hit it like he did with the outside of his boot, for it to swing like that, is just a phenomenal hit. And Burnley fans are right. They all kind of said, he could do another 99 of those, and they would end up in the rows out of the cricket field stand and what have you. They're probably right, but who cares? But when that happens, it's just a phenomenal goal. It's up there with your two guys, and some of the ones that David Dunn scored, Alan Shearer's little chip against Norwich City in the 7-1, was it, or something? Whatever we beat them by. So I've seen some hell of Rovers goals over the years, but that for me is absolutely up there in the top 3 for sure.
You know what Burnley fans are going to say, don't you, with that goal? It's only a draw. That's all they're going to... You're just going to hear. Anytime you mention that goal, it'll be just, you didn't beat us, did you? Well, we should have done. Goal is goal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
even after it went in, well done on your 1-1 win, sort
Yeah.
of thing. But I mean, for me, it was the first, it's the only time I've seen us score against Burnley, which is a bit depressing. But I mean, the fact it was that goal, just, I mean, what a way to kind of end a drought. But I mean, obviously, this is more of a question for Dirk and Jonty. Is that the best ever derby goal between the two sides, you reckon, for either Burnley or Blackburn?
Yep.
Pedersen.
Nah, David Dunn, last offside goal, surely.
Yeah. Pedersen scored a cracker against Burnley, but no, I mean, that for me, Weimann again is next level sort of thing. It's just phenomenal goal, phenomenal. It's that good. It reminds me of myself in my prime. I'm sure. When I sent Andy Weimann my DVD of great goals, sure it's just he's got hold of that. It's a phenomenal goal. It will. Yeah, I've got a fading memory, but that one will stay in my mind for a long time.
And also you got to think about Trafford, who had a great season himself for Burnley, hardly letting a goal himself. So we were definitely the minnows in that game, and whenever we played them prior to our last goal, we were the force. So I think this
I'll
one.
tell you what will be interesting. If you could, if you could insert an honesty tablet into a lot of either Dingle players, Dingle management, and just basically say to them, listen, guys, was that one of the best goals you've ever witnessed, whether that's on the field, off the field? It will be a very, very interesting conversation, because I don't think there's many Burnley fans that have seen a better goal than that at Turf Moor. Do you know what I mean? Either for them or for the opposition. Like I say, it would need to be a big honesty tablet. It would need to be an intravenous drip into them sort of thing. But they might have to admit that, yeah, you know what, that is one hell of a goal. And it is. It absolutely is.
Yeah, and I agree with Darwin. Rover says the gap between us and the Dingles has got smaller. It has got smaller. They're still considerably ahead of us right now. But I think the tide is slowly turning. It's going to take a little bit longer. But anyway, let's go to what we got. I think we're the last award.
Hey.
Dun, dun, dun. Yay. And it is
Player of
Player
the
of the
season.
Season, I think. It's not him. It's this guy. Ba-da-ba-bum, wearing his pretty in pink number. Sondre Tronstad is your Blackburn Rovers Player of the Season with, I don't know what the result was, but I'll tell you what the percentage was.
Yeah, give us everyone who got the vote, because I went Danny Bath. He's got to be second.
Okay,
So,
well, chat amongst yourselves. I want to dig it out here. Loan signing a season.
G2 go for Sondre.
Yeah, I think I did. I think, bearing in mind all the other votes that I'd given, I'm pretty sure I went Sunday. But, to be fair, it was probably the choice of about 2 or 3 different players. Trav could have been up there. Danny Barr could have been up there. Tronstad could have been up there. So, and I can't remember a season in the last. There's normally been a standout player, so it's been a dead easy vote for me. But it's nice to have 3 or 4 different players that actually could have done that. And if we can keep hold of all 3 or 4 of them, that would be brilliant as well. So
I'd mention Britain as well. I think those 4 for me, where I was kind of flirting with the idea of.
Yeah, if Britain hadn't got injured, then he could have absolutely been on our screen now, sort of thing. But unfortunately, shit happens, and he was a big miss for us. But Mark Anderton, Britain for me as well. So he absolutely warrants being in the same conversation. But unfortunately, the injury got the better of him. And I think testament to that is when he came back. What I liked about Britain is that he didn't have that sort of, stutter or anything. He came back like he'd never been out injured, sort of thing. Because that's always a worry when they come back from injury. Are they going to pick up where they left off? And Callum Britton absolutely did that. So a lot of medals being handed out tonight, isn't there, for stalwarts of Rovers? But it's like I say, it's really positive, and we should go into next season, depending upon who we sign and who we keep hold of. We should go in with at least more of a glimmer of hope than what we have been in the past.
Yeah, I'll give you a rundown here. In sixth place was Lewis Travis. The next was joint fifth, or you could say fourth, was Yuki Ohashi and Danny Bart. Ooh. The third place was Tyree Stolen. Second, Callum Britton. Number 1 was Sondre.
Oh, Tyree Stolen who's third is embarrassing, man.
Yeah.
It's such recency bias.
Owen mentioned in that as well. It's wild as well. It's like crazy.
Yeah. But before we tap out of here, I want to showcase the other little thing here, which is, of course, the file. Gosh, my computer.
Vlogger of the.
No, why we should do that? It should be the next one.
Well done, proper northerner.
So this is the end of the season table. As you can see it, it's very tiny, it's very small, but we're in there.
No, we don't want to look at that.
I know, but I'm just, it's not bad.
It could have been a lot worse. It could have been Burnley top of the table.
It could have.
It could have been Preston relegated for Denver.
Oh, it would have been sweet, wouldn't it? It would have been a nice little bonus.
To be fair, they did they were doing us a favour, weren't they? Keeping Bristol City out of it. So.
To be fair, both Preston and Burnley did everything that we needed them to do. To be fair, but
just didn't do it.
The writing was on the wall. That was always going to be the case, wasn't it? But yeah.
But the one time they do us a favour, because Preston never do us any favours. It were last time 2 years ago we needed them to beat Sunderland, didn't they? And they just rolled over and got battered by Sunderland, didn't they? But yeah.
Well. That's it. That's the end of the season awards. I think I'll try to get another podcast pretty soon. Maybe a buy, keep, or sell thing. We could do that. I don't know about next week. I'm driving back next week, so I'll try and be here. But yeah, that's the end of season awards, and hopefully a lot of those winners, not the raspberry ones, but hopefully the winners, Pleasant Season, etc., will be back next season to kick us on in Big Val's revolution. Closing comments start from the right of me, Denver. Nope, that's Jacob. Tired.
We look alike because he's got a lovely tan. So
thank you, Denver. No, I mean, obviously, we've ended the season positively. I mean, same old, I suppose, when it comes to Rovers. Fallen at the final hurdle to make the playoffs. I just hope next season we can actually build upon it. Not see a similar season after we fell at the final hurdle 2 years ago and being another relegation scrap. But yeah, like I said before, let's hope we just back Val, giving the players he needs and wants for this system. I think, as I said, I think there'll be some kind of dead woods. Your Buckley's and your Durant and Costello's, in my opinion, will be moved on, and let's get some fresh blood into the team. And yeah, let's get fully behind him now. But Eustace still was manager of the season, unfortunately.
Just because you met him, just because you had a little chat with him.
I met John Dahl, if that helps.
Yeah, don't say that about Jonty's here.
Jonty's next. Let's get everything hangs up on us. You're bringing up some touchy stuff here. Jonty, closing comments from you from this season.
I'm just looking. Denver's going to Blackburn End Pod. Apparently, according to Rovers guy. So good
transfer in Denver.
I have no idea.
No, it's got a contract. It's signed up.
Has he? Has he?
The release clause.
Wait. Sorry, was that?
Someone was trying to take Philly Pete a few months ago, weren't they? They're after it all.
Don't dish the dirt on a live podcast. Oh dear, we're gonna get all over the tabloids.
I'm not being funny, but Jacob's just WhatsApped me and said that he'll drive you to the Blackburn End Pod himself. So, good luck. So.
I'm not going to bloody Wales, Johnson.
No, sorry. Wow. Not even that. Turfcast. Denver's going to Turfcast. You heard it here first.
No, were you making mates with Turfcast at FCA's, Johnson?
Well, you know what? I was going to mention that because it's very remiss of us. We've not even mentioned the awards for Roverseas. Getting to the finals at least. More than what Rovers did in terms of playoff finals, but we got to the finals and let's go again, boys. But holistic view, great season to be fair, exceeded my expectations by about 2 or 3 spaces. Remember where we came from, staring down the barrel of relegation last season. So a lot of, like I said, I've kind of said it throughout the tonight's podcast, is that, the fact that we're sat here on 3 or 4 players that could have made player of the season. And I actually had to give quite a lot of thought to all my selections throughout, which is a nice place to be. So I think it's a really important summer now for Rovers. Stop all this Venky's out malarkey. It is what it is. We've got what we've got. It's not worked for the past 15 years. What makes them think that anything's going to change now? So just pay your money, renew your season ticket, and just support the lads. Whether you support the club is a different matter, but and let's get behind it, because people not going to Rovers, actually you're part of the problem, because then we can't get the transfers that we want, things like that. So I know it sounds a bit blue sky and utopian, but I prefer to see 26,000 people down at Ewood Park week in, week out, make us an attractive proposition for anybody to buy us, and that might drive the Venky's out if that's what we want. I'm not the biggest fan, but you know what? I've kind of resigned myself to the fact that we'll have them for a good few years, unless we get into the Premier League and then somebody might come along and buy us. So just keep supporting Rovers. Great season. Important transfer window over the summer. Great podcast. If you haven't subscribed, where have you been? As Nick would say. And I'm up here in wee Scotland. So
looking out for those haggis. Catch them.
I've got that tomorrow morning. That's the only reason I'm here. What's your overview?
I do want to reiterate on that. That's probably, as much as I love the club, the one thing that does bring a tear to my eye, or does disappoint me, is the lack of fans in the state. That's the main talking point when you hear, you see all these videos online, empty stadiums, we've got 50%. That would be one thing I'd love to see is Ewood more full. I understand people are protesting, I understand all that, but if imagine being a player and you're looking around this stadium and you're seeing half of it empty. It is, and then Cantwell, I remember Nate saying it on the award, as they're walking around the stadium to say farewell. And he was like, I know the stadium, they always say that the stadium's empty, blah, 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 but they're really good with us today. The fact that he had to say that really just it just epitomizes look, we have a too big of a stadium for where we are. Yes, it's a for the town that we live in and where we were when we were at the top of the Premier League for the time, it was good for then. Of course, now it's too big. We're not attracting those numbers anymore. But I'd like to see as many fans. When we go to these away days, how electric is the support? How electric is the atmosphere? Especially Leicester last season, Sheffield United. It was just the atmosphere was so good. I would say most away days, but when John Timmy were at Stoke, it was pretty dull. But on the other hand, those days just make for the experience as fans and as in Banner and Ishmael, we were looking at it, seeing how superb.
Ismail, not Ishmael.
Ismail. Sorry, yeah, the comments will be at me. But just seeing the passion and the noise and the numbers will attract players, and as Blackburn fans, we all want the team to do well. And the more of us there, the better that it will be. And but yeah, verdict on the season: it surpassed all expectations for the majority of Blackburn fans and definitely other fans. Most people had us down in the relegation zone to be relegated, and we just narrowly missed out on the playoffs. Like looking back at some of the championship predictions and seeing our name down there, in the relegation zone, and seeing how we've been. Since then, even I never predicted us to go down, but I didn't have playoffs in mind per se. I thought it might have been a steady Eddie season, like I am. But
shock.
Exactly. But we've been superb this season, even with all the turmoil, even with David Lowe coming in and getting those 2 wins, which and even with the bad run under Valerie, it's I'm not even going to say Ismail if I get it wrong, but yeah, and even questioning it myself and in the decision making and the coaching style of play and everything. The last 6 games has given me a lot of hope for next season. So, get behind the manager, get behind the team, and hopefully we have a really good season next season. And with fingers crossed, somehow we get promoted, and I'll cry on this podcast live if we do go up. So.
May have to have a look, Dirk, at the start of season predictions that we all did in the next podcast, and have a look how we all did.
Yeah, I don't know when we will go there as well with our next season predictions. I don't know, when you stick your neck out for that, but
it's got to be before the first game.
Of course, yes. It'll be probably back into July or something.
Dirk, what's your overview of the season? I feel obviously as I've been watching some of your post-match reactions, walking around your garden, I feel like I've been on a journey with you as well. And obviously I know you, but obviously for some of the other people that don't actually know you as well, it's you take us on this little soap opera as well. I've seen you almost crying as a grown man, but also I've seen you.
Absolutely, filters, them web filters.
Yeah, all right, it's not what it is. But
I came into the season. John Eustace, I thought he did great. At the back end of the last season, showed that we could defend, and I thought we would have a mid-season, like a 12th or something like that. But it wouldn't be Rovers if it was not Blackburn Rovers. The past 3 seasons, we've gone to the last game of the season with something on the line, and you look at the table and you look at your Swanseas, your Watfords, your Wednesdays, and all that. They don't have that end of season experience, and I was happy that it was this kind of end of the season. I was thinking to myself, do I buy a bottle of champagne and put it in the fridge? Do I do that? Do I have it on ice? Do I get be ready? What should I do? I even told the wife, I said, I need you to get ready to get the camera just in case they make it top 6. I have to run out and I need you to film me. I even had all that in. So I went to last game with optimism, with the dream. When that goal went in, I honestly started running calculations in my head. I was thinking, Pete's going to have to do this because I'm going to be in Pennsylvania, nowhere near. He's going to have to do the watch-alongs for the playoffs. I was booking my hotel room. That's what I was doing. So, I curse Rovers for dragging me through a lot of stuff. And I'm still week in or a season in, season out, always think we will choke it. We will, but I wouldn't have it any other way. It's Blackburn Rovers. Our day will come when we'll come back to the promised land. I don't know if it'll be next season, but no, I'm excited. I'm excited now. I think we've got a good, exciting coach. I'm just hopeful that the hierarchy get it right. and give him what he wants, give him the tools. But no, this season's been good. It's been a long one. I'm happy it's over, but I'm also excited about what's around the corner.
You know what, when that day does come, it'll be that much sweeter when we do finally get promoted, and not the likes of your kind of Southamptons, but your clubs or whatever, or even if we're Man City fans and you're just winning everything every year. I know that this season, but yeah, it'll be that much sweeter when it comes, and especially for someone like me in Denver, where we've only ever seen the bad times really. Past
Literally.
10 years.
Times I've been driving up and down that M6 from Wales back, and just seeing, us get relegated to League One. It's never fun. A lot, my home games are away days every week, and
you youngsters, like it when that day does come, and you'll every time you go to Ewood, it will be sellout. Those goals, those empty seats will be back. They'll be full again. And it will be something different. Like you haven't seen Ewood like that. I guess there might have been the odd game, the FA Cup game against Man United. Will you guys go to that game with
Liverpool?
Danny Graham's goal in the FA Cup against?
I was there for that. Yeah, I was there for that. But I mean, the Liverpool was when it was really fun. And Oxford, wasn't it, in League One when we were promoted? They were the only two times where it's like, wow, like the noise you've never heard anything like that. Ewood. So, but yeah.
Let's hope next season. And again, if I don't want to be a team that flirts with the playoffs, and I thought we were the form team coming into the last weekend. I thought there was a chance, but I wouldn't have wanted to be like a Sunderland or like at the minute, because their form was bad. If I want to get in to the playoffs, I want to go in like in style. I don't want to just. I want the third party people to think this team is playing good football and they deserve to be in the playoffs.
Yeah, league position going into the playoffs is completely irrelevant. It's all about the form going in there, and I think that's what would have made Rovers really exciting, because we were absolutely bang on form going into there, and I think we would have done all right in the playoffs. I think we would have got to the finals. Whether we won it or not remains to be seen, but yeah, I think we could have held our own in the semis and maybe sneaked in that way, but it wasn't to be. Shit happens. It's all part of Rovers' rich tapestry, isn't it? So who knows, this time next season we could be crying and we're going down into League One, or equally we could be automatic playoffs and we finished second but we're pissed off because we haven't gone up as champions. That's Rovers, isn't it, all over.
I won't be pissed off if we don't go up as champions. I just want to go up. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Well, this time last year we would have been, who would have said we weren't pissed off because we just didn't quite make the playoffs? If I said that this time last year, you would have said you're deluded, Johnny. We've just missed out on relegation. What to be sat here thinking, who knows? It's a championship. We signed a couple of absolute rough diamonds, and a couple more yuckies and what have you.
Couple more Mactars.
Yeah. All firing Mactars for 4 games that he showed us what he can do. That isn't a criticism. The guy's got. I think it was away at QPR where up until that point, and my criticism I think was justified, because I'd not seen him have a meaningful shot on target up until QPR away. And he had one shot. And the last time I saw a striker hit the ball that hard and that sweet, okay, he didn't score, was Alan Shearer. The power and the accuracy that he got on that away at QPR. And bearing in mind Loftus Road, you're literally sat above, you're almost on the field, you're almost overhanging the field. And I thought, wow, there is actually a player there. And then he went on a bit of a run, and he I won't say proved me wrong. I think I can still take that mantle that he's not quite where we want him to be, but actually, he turned my head that night where I thought, he's a tricky player. He could become a little bit handy for us, but who knows?
Big Target, what about here?
Yeah.
No. I was talking about. Yeah, I'm joking. Yeah.
I think there's a player in there. He's just I think hope this season do him well, but he's definitely a wild one. We don't know what you're gonna get. Could get a red card. Could get a goal. Could get whatever. But
he's a wild card, isn't he? But that's the kind of season Yuki could have when you compare 2 players that have never played in the Championship before. And this is why the chalk and cheese. Yuki's taken to it like a duck to water. Mac Torgay, not quite so, but we've seen glimpses of what he's capable of, and this is why it's exciting, isn't it? But what and for the next podcast, let's talk about the three teams that are coming down. How are they going to fare? I think we maybe we need to start putting a prediction in. We'll do not where Rovers are going to finish, but who's going to go up. Who's going to be two automatic? Who's going to be the four playoffs places? Who are the three that are going to go down?
I think that's a good idea.
Where a Rover's going to finish. Now, that might be in all of the aforementioned, or it might be, they're going to finish 10th, and it's going to be a bit of a there season. Where have you been? Subscribe.
I generally think everyone doing a championship predictions. It will be, and then at the end of the season, going through it, and whoever got the most correct. You'd have a bang on, you get 3. If you were like 3 places out, you get 1 point. If you were completely wrong, you get nothing. I think, and then finding out who was the better at predicting a chaotic league as it is already, it'll be quite a bit of fun. But so there you go, Dirk.
Sounds like homework. It's giving me a headache just thinking about it. But we'll do something like that. All right. Well, thanks again, you guys. Thanks again for the chat, guys. You guys are all fantastic. We'll be back, I think, hopefully next week or the week after to talk about who's going, who's staying, and maybe even catch up with some rumors. Hopefully there's some rumors out there. But appreciate the panel. You guys are amazing. I'm going to go. Now it's my bladder. I got to go to the can. But I'll catch up with you guys later. I'm going to hit end, and then I'm going to bounce out of here. You guys are fantastic.